Okay, but the role of intellect will still be there paramount, because the intellect would have told you, the intellect would have guided you in not worshipping anything else other than God, because it would have directed you to worship God alone, because you would know that by intellect alone that God deserves our worship. Yeah. So the question about Islam's role and understanding of life is such that human beings are created with this purpose, and they are well suited to fulfill that purpose. So even if you're born,
the purpose of us is to how. Okay, so say if I become a Muslim now, if I did, maybe.
yeah,
Well, how would I? So obviously, I do feel like a sense of connection and gratitude towards something, but like I've never, everyone I've been surrounded by has been so anti that. So no, I don't know why we have.
Second, sorry?
Where I'm from, like people are very
anti-religious, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
In every sector, like, they tried to infiltrate that into me.
Yeah.
But I always felt like I've always felt gratitude in a way. So how would I live my life now if I was a Muslim? How would I change?
Yeah.
Obviously,
So firstly, you need to have this confidence and faith strong, because once you have a strong faith and confidence, you can bear whatever comes to you patiently. You might have difficulties from friends and families and so on, but because you recognize the truth, you will and you can continue your life with that belief. Once you have that truth within you, it doesn't matter how hard it is, you would know that, okay, no one can somehow force me into doing whatever, because people should, number one, respect your wishes. That becoming a Muslim, I am not suddenly taking my life away. Like you think you're scared, your family might think, oh, you're going to now no longer be my daughter, you're going to take your life away and become like a zombie or something. No, you will not only improve in your character, I'm sure you have a good character and good personality already, no doubt about it. It's already reflective of what I've discussed so far. But you will excel and develop and enhance your noble character that is already, and you will demonstrate that in terms of your interactions, of your etiquettes, the love, the care, the support, the attitude that you have. People will see the difference. They will automatically see that I want to be like you. Because how is it that you're not lying, you're not cheating, you're not being rude and sarcastic and mocking, but you're being so much caring and respectful and helping and being kind and showing so much more sympathy and empathy. You are like a person which people say, I want to be like that, how can I be not like that? When they see the difference, their reaction will change. When you see that you are more connecting with your parents, giving them more care and support and more honor and more respect and more help, that's not something that they expected. They will say, actually, what am I losing? I'm gaining more. I'm gaining more and more for my daughter, that I see in my daughter a change which is in the good direction. That my daughter is not going downhill, she's uplifting herself in terms of her independence of thought, critical thinking, behavior and righteous actions. She's being more and more charitable. She is being more what I'm aspiring to be. Imagine if you had all that money and people say, look at this miserable individual, doesn't spend a penny. You don't have money and you're giving away to charity. You're saying, this poor person is more need than I have. Someone hungry, almost dying, and you're about to eat, and you say, no. That person deserves this food more than I do. When people see these actions, the change in your character, no one will say like, oh, what have you become? What have you become? So that will, this is Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Muhammad. If you have any question, you can ask him. We'll explain to you how the transformation comes to you. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did he not say, أو كما قال رسول الله, إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق, that I have not been raised except to perfect the nobility of character.
Yes. Actually, one of the things that sins very convert, one of those ones who I met her mother, and then she said to me, the mother of this lady, she said to me, I wish my other daughter leave Islam last time. So she became a better person. She became close to me. So Islam is our good message, our good character. So, because one of the things we have tried to disregard culture. Whatever we do, it's not about what the people see. It's my mission is God. So, if the action and secondly, I will fulfill the right of Allah. And that's Allah told us in the Quran. قضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا وشكرا أن تجيبوا الخير. So that's why sometimes you say, how can I become a Muslim? What are the things that actually I always say to the brothers or the sisters who want to accept, I say, what is the best? Sometimes the process, for example, if you draw an image of who you are, what your personality. You say someone who is very kind, very good, be good to the neighbors, be good to the parents, be confident in the her creator, and all these things. And I would say that glory to Jesus! Yeshua the Messiah!
Yeah. So what I would like to understand from you is this. Firstly, do you accept that there definitely is a creator and who is one and only? Or do you still have doubt about God's existence? Because that is important, firstly, to appreciate and acknowledge within ourselves as the truth of reality.
It's really hard for me to say yes, definitely, but not no. There's no about it. There's no like. I'm not questioning it. I do believe there's a creator.
Okay.
I do believe that.
That belief.
But it's hard for me to say that in a way.
Sure.
It's like a resistance inside me to say yes.
Okay. So let's help you build on that belief to be convinced intellectually. Yeah. Convinced more intellectually. You see, if we are now here, something existing, do you think there was a time there was absolute nothingness? Is it possible to have the absolute nothingness?
Is it possible for there to be nothing? I don't think there is.
Yeah,
Can there ever be just nothing?
Nothing will generate nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think.
Right.
It's just.
So in the Quran, Allah tells us, you see, you see, the way to convince ourselves about this absolutely in the existence of the Creator is to really develop ourselves critically minded, critical thinking. Allah says, أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون أم خلقوا من غير شيء. Were they created from nothingness, from nothing? Or were they themselves the creators? Did they create the heavens and the earth?
Yeah.
Nay, they have no firm faith. So the Quran reasons with us, and you would know that we did not come from nothingness at one point, because nothingness doesn't have any power to create. It doesn't even exist. So nothingness could not create. So that means there has to be always something.
So why do you think we were created? Is there a reason?
There is a reason. So do you accept there has to be always something?
Yeah, I do.
Now,
What does that mean? Like, it's just
Is
Call me
this-
nothing, because nothing itself is something.
Can I mention something?
nothing is something, right?
No, I said no.
Listen,
Yes.
let me just clarify for you. Yeah? So now here, since you said there is a creator, yeah? This creator, it has to have main three characteristics. It has many characteristics. It has to have main three characteristics. Firstly, it has to be all powerful to create this sophisticated universe, correct? It has to be all knowing, meaning it has the knowledge to create this universe and this sophisticated universe. And it should have an independent will, meaning there is nothing forcing this creator to do or not to do. So this creator decides to create and decides not to create, decides to create. So these are the three miracles. You accept this?
Yeah.
Now since it's all knowing, or this creator is all knowing, now why he has created us for? That's the question. Now, if it's about create, for example, species, you know, we are like other species. Well, as other animals, there's a special job done. It's about eating and drinking, reproductive. Animals, they look at together. But us, we have this complicated, you could say, intellectual ability that our decision has having impact on everything around us. That means the more intellectual ability that we have, the more responsibility we should take. Now, this responsibility. So I will suggest this. We are created to be grateful to this creator. Just to be grateful. And how to fulfill this concept is by submitting our will to His will, by following the guidance that He sent down to us, and as well by being good and being nice and being kind and show the good manners that He has told us to be. That's the way we show our gratitude to His creator. And that's what it is. That's submission. So when you submit willingly, your will to the will of God, then that's what.
I mean, imagine you're driving a car and you take a really good
U-turn. This is what God wants from us. It's not about
when you try to take a U-turn.
There are other teachers that do different things. If it's about just only worshiping Him, God has angels for only worshiping Him, doesn't need that. It's about us to choose, to submit our will to His will. That's what God wants. That's what God has revealed and revealed for all the prophets and messengers. Revealed to them the same thing. And those messengers, they convey this message of God to the people. Worship none but God alone and not associate with God alone. That's all. And follow the guidance of the prophets and messengers. That's what it really does. And it makes sense. And how it makes sense? We will say, in the Quran. We'll say, I don't believe in the Quran. How can I believe in the Quran? That's maybe the question. How can I believe in the Quran? Well, I don't understand the Quran. It's written in Arabic. I don't understand the Quran. I don't know what the Quran is about. How can I believe in a book which is aliens? But the Quran is the Quran. It is not a scientific book, but it has scientific facts. Quran is not a physical book. So when you read the Quran, you will see these facts. It cannot be said by someone who is a literate man 1400 years ago. It's impossible for someone to say such information or to bring such information during that time. That show the proof. What's your name, by the way? Georgia. So to prove for Georgia that it is a book came from God, to make sense for her. And then after that you will understand this book was sent by God. And then after that everything else will make sense. And I could introduce to you many facts in the Quran. For example, there are scientific facts in the Quran. If I believe it, there are scientific facts. Now, one of the scientific facts. Now, it's light. Now, when you look, the stars is not appearing yet, but when you look up there and some stars or whatever, actually when you see the stars, you see the stars or what do you see exactly in the stars? What do you see?
Shiny things.
What are they?
Just like stars, like celestial bodies and rock.
So listen, it's actually what you see when you look up into the sky, you see the stars. Actually you see the history of the stars.
No, because they're dead, aren't they?
Yes, because what happens? You literally see the positions of the stars. You don't see the stars.
Yeah.
Positions of the stars when the light departed from its millions of years ago. Now, would anyone know 1400 years ago about the stars?
Let me explain a bit more to develop this further. When I see a star there, I think it's just there, right? If that was a star, imagine that's the moon over there, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that was a star, if I saw that as a star, the normal general people understanding is, if you're not really into science, you think the star is right there. But the reality is, the star at this very minute, it's not there. That was the position of the star hundreds of millions, if not billions years ago, when the star was there. The star, the light from that star was traveling. It took millions of years to come to us to observe it. But by that time, the star has moved its position from there. It's no longer there. It's gone. It's like this. The star emitted light and it's coming, but the star is moving away. And by the time it goes there, the star is somewhere else. So,
Why though? Why?
Because that's how great is this issue.
but
So you think God created all the stars
no, but
and the moon?
we want to make an important point. Though this is something that we were amazed to hear. I think we probably have just slightly missed it. The stars that we see, they are not there. We only see the star that was there at one point. Do you agree at this that? It's called the position of the stars. Quran says مواقع
Allah says
النجوم.
in the Quran, فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم. Meaning, God says, I will not make an oath by the positions of the stars. وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم. And it's a great oath. But you are not yet aware of this. God is addressing the people at that time. You're not yet aware of the meaning of the term position of the stars. Yeah? So now we discovered recently that after this discovery and after recently we knew through telescopes and everything, now we know those stars who are millions of years away from us. What we see now, when we observe them, we literally observe the position of the star when the light departed from it.
Yeah, not the star itself. It's a position.
Who told Muhammad? It's upon him. And literally,
So does it keep the light there or something?
this
No,
fact.
the light has come to us already. These lights, they travel, come to you.
Oh, right, okay, right, yeah.
But the light is, the source has moved away. So the star moved away from its thing. So the Quran is highlighting an aspect called, it's the position of the stars. Normally people would not even understand, what do you mean by position of stars? Because what you see is what's there, but it's not there. So that knowledge to a scientist or an astrophysicist should be striking. Like, how would someone even know this information? Because
And there's someone illiterate, unable to read and write, and will bring this information and to be discovered
Muhammad was
after
illiterate.
400
yes, illiterate.
So how
Allah revealed him the knowledge to him. Allah informed him about this information.
is there like the people who say like he
Yes.
wasn't?
So who taught him?
Is there like these people who say like Prophet Muhammad was not illiterate like he claimed?
No, that's Quran says he's illiterate.
Now, so you mentioned God taught him, and now that could be one coincidence. Okay, let's move on in the Quran. Let's talk more in the Quran. Okay, the Quran says, have you been to the ocean? To the ocean side? What do you think the deepest point any diver could dive 1400 years ago?
Without any
equipment?
how many meters?
Like 10 most, at most.
Maybe 10, 15, 20, whatever. That's it. Would anyone know what is deep in the ocean?
A mile deeper in ocean. Would they even know how it looks like?
We didn't have the technology to do that.
They didn't have the clue. Now, Quran told us 1400 years ago about this fact. God says in the Quran, those who are away from the guidance of God, like someone who's deep in the bottom of the ocean. Above him there is a wave. Above the wave there is another wave. Above the sea there is a cloud. Even if he took his hand out of his pocket, he will be unable to see it. Darkness upon darkness. And whomever God did give him the light of guidance, it has no light of guidance. My point is, God has given a description of darkness, talking about people who are misguided away from the guidance of God. God could say they are living in the darkness, that's it. But God has described a detailed darkness. Detailed. This detailed darkness, it's a scientific fact, which is discovered recently. When the sunlight comes to the earth, if it's cloudy with that, 40% of the light will be reflected back, and only 60% will go through. And if there is the surface wave of the sea, what does it do to the light? It will break the light. So only half of it could go through. People could appreciate this, could understand this, but no one would know that deep in the ocean there is another layer of waves, which they are called the sea current, which they travel in a different direction. Whatever remains of the light, it will be broken by this wave. And deep in the ocean, even if someone took his hand out of his pocket to look at it, he will be unable to see it. This is in a time where people used to assume the eye could see by itself. Who told Muhammad about this?
The layers and layers of darkness, and there's total darkness in the ocean. In fact, the living organisms in there, they have their own source of light. Yeah, you know that. So the Quran is saying there's layers of darkness going darker and darker and darker to a point where it's absolute darkness.
We have like infrared.
Yeah.
Visually, you can see them dark.
Yeah. So absolute darkness, that's something that people wouldn't appreciate and know. And not only that, the very fact of the existence of interoceanic currents or waves. Did you even know that there are, just like surface waves, there are waves underneath the oceans? You could not see them because if you go up space with your satellite, you can see them perhaps. But did they have satellites back then, 1400 years ago? No. Yeah. So 1400 years ago, we did not have satellites to know that there were interoceanic waves. So when the Quran mentions all of this, it's for us to reflect and say this knowledge could not have been known by any human being at that time.
Like at the time.
Even if you were to dive, you would not observe this kind of waves because this book is from him.
And as well, for example, what do you think people they would know about the development of the fetus in the womb of the mother? We don't want to know that.
They made lots of mistakes by assuming, like Hippocrates, Aristotle, Galen, and various others.
God has told us in the Quran, when the human being like similar to a blood clot, similar to this, that it evolved and developed into like what is similar to a bite. And this bite developed into bone, and this bone is covered with the flesh, and this flesh becomes a new creation.
Just to give you a background context, at one point there was this scientific consensus and understanding for the majority of the people that human beings were like a miniature human being in the sperm from a man, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 1673, Van Leeuwenhoek, when he had his very simple microscope, but it was powerful enough for them at that time, he says, look, we can see that, and they actually drew like a human being like this, and then it becomes bigger and bigger. It's called the pre-formation theory, which is, of course, it's false, it's incorrect, but that's what the belief had even in the 1673 at that point. But the Quran, 1400 years ago, is telling that no, human beings are created in successive stages, development one after the other, one form of the other, from this stage to the next stage and so on and so forth, going against even the scientific consensus of the day. Okay? Now we appreciate and realize the Quran has been clearly saying what we know all along from today's understanding of science. But our point is, this information in this book, the Quran, comes from which source? It could not have been come from any person, any people, any community from the socio-historical milieu in 14th century, because they had a false understanding then. They thought the menstrual blood helped in coagulating the male's discharge to form a human being. But we know that it has no function in creating a baby, menstrual blood. Okay, that's what they believed. So going against the current, at that time, the contemporary scientific understanding, the Quran going against that and said, no, it's not like that. And now we ask this question, how did the Quran know and get it right? When you had, say, 16 different types of theories and all of them are wrong, some right here and there, and Quran gets all of them right, from someone who doesn't have medical science knowledge, someone who doesn't have scientific knowledge, let alone any knowledge of reading a book of any kind. The Quran tells us if they knew that you were able to read and write, this is answering your question, they would have doubted. The Quran says, they know his community has seen him not being educated and learned, because at that time not many people had the luxury of being educated in an institution and have the learning. Many people didn't know how to read and write. Those who knew how to read and write are a certain group of people. So when Prophet Muhammad is already mentioned in the Quran that this is the case, and he's bringing you the Quran as an illiterate person and going against your consensus and your science, proving you wrong, what should be our rational expectation of this phenomena? That he is the scientist? Back even then, we're calling him the best scientist, the best philosopher, best, people provide the best economist, best military leader, everything apart from messenger. All of that is to demonstrate to the people that he is a prophet of God, a messenger of God, as a proof and evidence, so that people can believe in that book and have faith and certainty. Because anyone can say, I'm a prophet of God, right? But the Quran gives not only the guidance, it gives you the proof and evidence with that guidance at the same time, so that your heart can be settled, your mind can be settled, because your heart and mind will be at synchronized with this understanding. You will say, yeah, it makes sense to believe in one God rather than many. it makes sense not to worship an idol like a monkey or an elephant or a half human, half elephant, or it makes sense not to worship in multiple of deities, 3 in 1, 5 in 20, whatever. But whatever it tells you about God, that God is all one, absolute, independent, self-sufficient, He is not born, doesn't produce children, there's no likeness unto Him, your mind will accept that. Your intellect will accept that. Your heart will accept that. And that is what Islam makes people to willingly, voluntarily accept it. That's called the voluntary submission. Islam, as my Sheikh was saying, is a voluntary submission of oneself by what? By this kind of processing critically, individually, without any coercion, without any force, by saying, I recognize the truth.
Yes.
I understand the truth. And I appreciate and it makes sense to me and I want to follow this truth. That is what Islam wants us in terms of this kind of rationalization and intellectualization and internalization of this reality. And when you do that, you would not care about like, okay, what are my friends going to think? Like if I become a Muslim, that, oh, I'm going to start eating halal and what and stuff like that. You know, people have all these things. So let's talk about the issues of hijab. Hijab,
Before this.
no, I was not explaining or justifying. I'm saying this is something that will come to you and you will do it because your faith will make you want to do that. It's not that you have to become a faith, like it's not something stopping you from becoming a Muslim, but you would want to yourself put on this hijab. So once you become a Muslim, because of this intellectual internalization of the reality and truth, you'd want to say, I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't want to go and sleep around with men or women, whatever. I don't want to eat this nonsense food that is going to be unhealthy. I want to live a life of sanity, dignity, honor, respect, well-being, mental health, physical health. And once you become a Muslim, you will see this is exactly what Islam is providing.
And also, before we come to the point, there are a few things. Now, for example, there is one atheist. He said he was atheist. He said, I became a Muslim after I heard about one single hadith about the Prophet. He said, Muhammad, if either he is someone who is a true prophet of God, or he is someone is advantageous, someone who is taking advantage of the situation. One of these. And he said, and I was looking for anything that to see that he is advantageous. He wants to take advantage of anything. Yeah. He said, when I looked into his life, you'll find he lived poor and he died poor. So it's not about the money. Yeah. Now here, as well, in terms of authority, you'll see him sitting with his companion like one of them. That when you come in, you don't distinguish between him and others. He's like them, he's one of them. Yeah. And as well, and he is someone, he is humble. He will accept someone even. In someone, if once he was adjusting the rows in the battlefield. So one of the companions, yeah, he was adjusting them. He said, "Oh, you hurt me." Then he said to him, "You take back your revenge. If you want to do the same thing again." He said, "No, you were wearing something, you were wearing clothes, and I wasn't wearing something as a top." Yeah. And then the Prophet peace be upon him, he took off the top, and he said, "You do what I did to you." So someone who is that level, and yet he will humble himself to someone who is one of his subjects should be, and yet he has no any arrogance or pride not to equal himself to someone like to another human being. And he said one of the things, this is his statement, that he said, that while I was studying, and I said, there must be a scientific mistake somewhere. Until he said, when an eclipse happened during the time of Muhammad. And it happened when he lost his son. He had a son, Ibrahim, his son, and his son died, then the eclipse happened. A moon eclipse. And then people they were wondering, they said, this eclipse happens because either sun eclipse or moon eclipse. So they said, this eclipse happens because our Prophet, peace be upon him, he lost his son. That's why God showed the sadness from the sky and everything that this is happening. So he said he could take the advantage of this moment to claim, yes, God is with me, and because of I lost my son, that the eclipse happened. That's it. And they would believe him. They would believe him. They would follow that. What he said, he came to them, he said to them, clarify for the humanity, not for him only, not for his people, for the humanity until the day of judgment. What he said to them, he said, the sun and the moon, they are from the signs of God. They will never have eclipse for the living or the death of anyone, including me or my son. So that shows, at that time, he said that I knew he is not someone taking advantage of the world. He is someone who is truly sent by God. So you could see someone who is this characteristic will clarify a scientific fact at that time that those are signs from God. They will never have eclipse or something except that what this act that with God will. It's not about the death of the living of someone, as some people claim. Yeah? Even here in the UK, you find when it rains, someone died, they say, or even the sky is crying for him. That's not crying for anyone. It's always raining in London. So my point is, people, they will try to say something that they want, but yet the truth is be upon him. At that point, you rectify that misconception in their mind. And he was saying, and call me Abdullah, the slave of Allah, and his slave. That's what I love. And no one more than this. That's how he used to be looking. That's how he lived. And he died. So Georgia, so that's what the brother was saying, which is important.
Let's just clarify what we just discussed here, just one thing if I may. You see, to understand critically about a prophet and a messenger, we need to look at the life of that person and the claims they make. Because anyone can make a claim and say, I'm a prophet of God, right? I'm a messenger of God, so follow me and so on. There are many false imposters that came over the history that we know. Even in Christendom, so many false prophets, for example, they will tell you. So we know even history, people claim to be prophets when they're not, because there are some internal motives of it. So even if we were to say, look, I'm going to critically analyze the life of the prophet, just to see whether indeed he was a prophet of God or not just simply taken by faith or because he says so. So when you look at his life, at one point, when he said, look, I'm not going to stop worshipping the idol, don't worship one God. They got sort of fed up and annoyed and irritated and said, you know what, don't say that anymore, because it's having a great economic impact on their business in Mecca, in Arabia at that time.
Which God can be worshipped anywhere, where they want the people to come to their idols to Mecca. That's what is their business.
Come with money, do the train. It's a booming business in Mecca at that time because there's so many idols worshipping going on. People will come from Syria, from Yemen, and from all these different places. Him by saying none of them are worship, we should not worship any one of those things, but worship God only. It ruins the trade and business and impacts their living and whatever, right? They didn't like it. So they wanted him to stop. He said, look, stop. You know what? What do you want? If you want to be the king, we will make you the king. If you want to be the richest person among us, we'll give you, just ask for whatever wealth you want.
More than all of us.
More than all of us. If you want women, is this what we're after? Just name them, you'll have the woman. Now, if someone was an imposter, think about it. If someone was an imposter, say, my golden opportunity, there you go. Make me a king, make me the wealthiest, and give me all the women I need, right? You know what he said? He didn't want any of that. In fact, there's another occasion, he said even like this, even if you were to give the sun on one hand and the moon on the other, I would never stop calling you that there's no one worthy of worship except God alone. I would never stop. Even if you were to give me the sun and the moon in my hand. Because that resilience that he had in preaching the truth to the people. So he had the opportunity. If he was an imposter and a fake, now you know that's what the fake and imposters will grab the opportunity. Yeah. He said, no, I'm not going to take any of that. Instead, he kept on and he was tortured. His the initial people who became Muslims, they were tortured and they were boycotted, they were killed, so much suffering, but they endured with all that. When he became eventually the leader, because when he went from Mecca to Medina, they all became Muslim, the whole community there, they welcomed him, they established the first Islamic community there, and they became eventually quite powerful, right? What happened was, even after that, when he came back to Mecca, so now he was like the leader of the whole community. So much political might and authority and power. What did he do to his enemies? All these enemies that made him suffer, his people suffer and die and kill and so on, he could have just wiped them all dead, right? He gave a general amnesty. Forgiveness to all, apart from few criminals. He needed to demonstrate that you have to have few exceptions. But apart from that, everyone else was, if you are going to go to this individual, you are safe, and so on and so forth. General amnesty, he forgave them all. That's not what someone who is being tortured and fake and now have the authority and might would do. They would commit vengeance and revenge. That's what we see the political leaders and people do when they become in power. And opposition people, when they come into power...
What happened in Germany, in Berlin? Look what happened to them when the Soviet and the Allies, when they entered Berlin. Look what happened to them. Literally, it's a mass killing inside Berlin, and as well a mass rape to women. That it was the case. So that still, you will find gardens, women they had poison, they killed themselves before the Allies. Because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So that's one.
Thousands of women killed themselves in Berlin because they don't want to be raped.
So that's when the opposition or parties become politically powerful and so on, they do. But what the Prophet said, general amnesty, forgiveness to all, and so on. So when he then established the communities with laws and so on, and he was governing like Arabia, right, at that point. How was he living? He explained, when he died, you would know the state of his living. So there are some elements now you can see in YouTube, a three-dimensional 3D of his house. Like he had a mattress made of, date palm leaves. At one point he was saying, what have you done to his wife? He's slept a little bit more.
It will hurt.
Because here,
when you lie on it, it will hurt. It will the size of it will be it will be attached to your body for quite some time.
From the palm tree. But even that he was saying, why have you given more of that? You folded more to make myself comfortable. So that was like his bed, a brick or something like this. What is this pillow? When he could have had at that time, we're talking about luxurious clothing and so on from Persia, from Roman, Byzantine, and so on. But he didn't live like that. He had some utensils where you could have for water, and maybe some from barley or something like that, or something. And he had a shield that that was it. That's his house.
And that shit was mortgaged.
No, because he lived.
I know why.
He didn't want to live like a comfortable life, live like a king and so on, because his mission was to convey the truth, the message of the guidance to the people, not to live a life of luxury. So what's the point of going and becoming more and more comfortable?
And the last as well, when he was dying, in his last moment, he asked his wife, do you have money at home? She said we have 12 dirham for them. 12 dirham, which is like coins.
Yeah.
He said, give it to the poor and the needy. I don't want to face God for having the single thing.
So the wealth.
He asked to that.
Think about his life now. He could have gathered all the wealth. In fact, his companions, his believers, believing companion, will give their life for him. If he just says, go and die, they will die. That is the level of support, commitment that people had. If he said, give me the wealth, they would bring the half of the wealth of Romans and the Byzantines and the Persians and so on. This is what it is. But he didn't want any of that. In fact, at one point, he didn't have, days went by, no food to eat apart from date, a few dates here and there. Dates, yeah? Tamar, it's called, okay? That is how the state of living, okay? So now we realize his living condition was such that it is not a person who is an imposter or fake to live like that, because he had all the opportunities to live differently, because that's what fake people want, because they want to make themselves happy, rich, famous, commanding, authoritative. He had all of that, but he didn't behave any of that. He was so humble and so low. He was praying every night. He'd wake up every night and pray like 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 of the night. Why? Why would he do that? God has made him a messenger. He's forgiven him all his sins. But he says, am I not been... How the hadith goes? Alam akuna abdan shakura. Would I not be a grateful servant of God? Even though God has forgiven him and given all of that, he would say he will still behave like this and thank and glorify God. What else did he do? In terms of, we talked about, some people say, you know what, he did all of this because he wanted to unify the Arabs. Guess what? He was talking against the Arabs. How can you do this? How can you bury your daughters alive? How do you bury your daughters alive? For what sin do you do that? Because you will be questioned for what you do that. Because they had the tradition of when a female child was born, they considered it as a financial liability because they have to marry her off and so on and so forth. They would take the live child somewhere else and bury her alive.
Yeah, they used to do
That's how it was.
Really?
Exactly, yes. That's how they were.
That was the norm. And can you imagine someone who is standing against this? That was the norm. That's how much. Why do you think people, think about it, why do you think people from all around the world, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, why they believed in him? Why do you think this? Why do you think someone, this brother from Bangladesh, another brother from India, some brother from Africa, from all around them, why some people will believe in someone who's an Arab man in India lived 1400 years ago? Because of his character.
But the question
He shows,
So just to continue.
that shows the great character, peace be upon him. So the question is to you, sister Georgia, I will ask you, do you believe in God?
Were you following George?
Yeah, I was following.
After we discussed about Prophet Muhammad, you believe he is a prophet from God. So that makes you Muslim.
Really?
Yes. But you have to accept Islam as a become an official Muslim. The person has to take a step, which is the testimony, which is the person has to testify there is none worthy of worship except Allah, meaning Allah is the one God, and to testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and then you will be officially Muslim, like all Muslims, and will be member of 1.8 billion brothers and sisters. You will be our sister in Islam, and we'll be there inshallah.
Great, and Jesus is also a
To
prophet.
teach you, and we'll be there inshallah to teach you and to help you and all of this. Now, do you want to accept?
She keeps telling me
Because
that she wants
in
to
your
go
heart-
to a mosque.
No, no worries. Before the mosque, no problem.
In your heart, you're already a Muslim.
You're already Muslim.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
She coming back to that.
we will. And by the way, we have. I run as well the Salah course to teach people how to pray. I do it at least in part of mosque, which is through as well as a part of my project I do with Salam. So inshallah, if you want it, we'll start teaching. But the first thing now is you, Georgia. Yeah, is you. Now, since you're in your heart you're a Muslim, yeah, to take that step of testimony of Islam. To say it, we'll say it, to say it in English, if you understand, and then to say it in Arabic, that's how it works, yeah? And then after that, it will be good, you'll be welcome to this 1.8 billion brothers and sisters, okay?
Interviews you have to do for yourself, not for
Yeah.
And
All right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's say it together.
Oh, yeah.
what, do you want to
Oh, you.
I mean, she's like, oh, I'll tell
One
you.
second, brother.
Yeah.
Explain it. But listen, sister. You're already there. I'm not convincing you of something which you are not. You are already there.
Yeah.
So you just you're doing that as a
Thing is-
official Muslim. Yeah. Yeah. So you are already there. I'm not.
No, yeah,
introducing
no,
him.
you mean.
Yeah. So what we'll say, just to say the testimony, you will become official Muslim. To identify yourself as a Muslim, and slowly, it's a gradual. Islam is a journey of learning. You keep learning, and you learn, and you learn, and you learn. And all of us here, we're going to be there to teach you and to help you, and for any questions, we're going to help you. All right? Okay? Okay. Now, wait a second. Okay, let's do the testimony. Yeah.
I don't want to do anything about everyone
No,
else.
don't worry.
That's
It's
fine,
okay.
that's fine. Let's go to one side.
If you want,
Shall we go to one side?
or here? Total up to you.
But you listen.
I don't know.
Listen, by the way,
There's a lot of swearing
that's a
times.
great thing. Yeah, that's a great thing. By the way, you are. What happens? Let me tell you something. Yeah. You are already there. Just only to say it, we'll say it in English, and then we'll say it in Arabic. All right? Okay? Repeat after me.
No, wait a minute, wait. I think, listen, I think because, I mean, obviously, if she has to do it, you know.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to do it in a mosque. If you feel that you have to go to a mosque, there's no need to go to a mosque.
I don't know
make
whether
the
she was serious about that.
No, no.
Because the song.
أشهد
أشهد
أن لا
أن لا
إله
إله
إلا
إلا
الله
الله
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن محمدا
محمدا
رسول
رسول
الله.
الله. Yes.
You are officially Muslim, and there's few good things for you. Firstly, all your sins is wiped as if you are a newborn baby. You have no sins.
Really?
That's the first thing. This is that you are a new Muslim and you accepted Islam. That's something which is great. Now, my advice to you as well, of course, in Islam recognizes marital relationship, husband and wife to get married, etc.
Can I speak to you later? Thank you.
That's the distinct. And of course, modesty is a key thing in Islam. Of course, so you're already there, as well to improve and improve. That's something which is in your advantage. That's what we want. We want the good for you, and we hope the best for you. And if you have any questions, inshallah, as I mentioned to you, we'll definitely exchange our contact, inshallah. And if you have any questions, I have two.
You find it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could give you my number. And then
Sure. We generally have like sisters, like only sisters group. We have sisters group for WhatsApp. So if you could share your experience.
You can write it down.
If you have
the number.
any questions or something, then you could direct there, ask your question there, and then the other sisters as well, they will know. If you have anything you want to share with them and things like that. And as well, some of them they have the same experience like you. Some of them they might have certain things. They'll say, "Oh, how can I go about, for example, to explain this to my parents?" They have, a river they can relate to each other. They can help you out with. That's something which I generally do. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
So it's very important to be in company
That's
with
something-
Muslim
be in
sisters
company
to
with
help
Muslim
you
sisters.
develop yourself, not only in knowledge but in
Your
practice.
WhatsApp number, whatever the WhatsApp number is.
do you have my number? Have you not called me? Saved
I'll
it.
give you. Should I give you my number and then you
I
send
can
me
give
a
you-
text or
Because
something?
the issue is we wanted to add her to the WhatsApp group.
Well,
for
like
this.
his phone is dead. Like his phone is dead.
You have her number?
No,
Do you have it on my
don't
phone? Have you not called
like I
me?
just, I don't have. I mean,
Oh, your phone's dead as well.
just try to.
No, it's anymore.
Don't say it because I don't want these numbers to be
Oh,
You're
shit.
good.
Can you
for the whole world to share.
I'm trying to think what I could do.
I have my phone, but do you have Facebook or something?
Yeah, maybe I could give you my number on Facebook later.
Yeah, okay. Give me
My phone is dead as well.
your phone. Is Put your
I have
number.
my.
Put your number here. What's your name, brother?
Eunice.
Where are you from, Yunus?
I'm a Moroccan.
Okay, brother Yunus. What I will do later on, if you can kindly
Yeah, my
just
phone is
text me.
dead.
Okay, I will text you.
Yeah, send me a text, and then I'll give her your number, and then you add her into.
Yeah. Because it's the sisters only, so you can comfortably discuss between yourselves rather than
Yeah, that's
people interfering.
generally the sisters group, which is
I mean, listen, because you've been like interested, Georgia, yeah.
if they have sometimes they relate to each other. That's
Now you have a bigger responsibility. Now she's a Muslim sisters of yours. If you are intending to have a relationship or marriage and so on, you have to do it in a halal way.
That's why I say to her, I keep saying to her, look, like I don't want to.
as well, whenever you wanted to do the nikah, inshallah, the marriage, the Islamic,
He can help it. He can help this.
You're not getting married though. Like, I don't know. I keep telling her like, 'cause, like most of the time, we talked about like the, relationships and stuff. Because I I used to live in the Middle East, and you know, like, I mean, lots of young people in my age, they just have like random sex and whatever. I told you that we don't do that. You know, like we don't do that. Like, I mean, I've had friends who are probably Muslims, but not good Muslims. They would like encourage you to do that, and like, but like for me, like it's a no, you know. So like I said to her, like that's why I cannot do that, and this is why.
That's good. That's good. So, that's something which is good. That's what I want from you, inshallah. So whenever you wanted to do to go with this, let me know. Islamically, you should have a guardian, by the way, like for
her father,
to make sure, like, you know, to make sure that there is someone, if they are your husband, make sure that fulfilling your rights, etc. So I don't mind to perform this at the point whenever you're ready, and then after that, I'm not an easygoing person. To him, not to you.
So now you will be unchecked, and she will now look at you how well you're behaving as a Muslim now, because she's a Muslim sister. So all the honor and dignity and respect and the right that you have to maintain that, okay, in the approved way, and do not interfere with her rights and responsibilities, obligations, and so on and so forth. Right? It's okay, because you will be accountable.
She probably
for anything that you do.
She'd learn from women more than me. Do you know what I mean?
As well, and I will tell you something.
So we've won him.
Many of the sisters who accept Islam, one of the things that happens when they get married to a brother, and then who doesn't show a good character, and then they will judge Islam sometimes through them. And I will tell you something. Do not judge Islam through people, not him, not me, no one. Judge Islam through Islam itself, not from the people. They can sinners, they make mistakes and shortcomings.
Because you did not become Muslim because of how he's convinced you. You convinced yourself because of the evidence that you've seen of the Prophet ﷺ about Allah and about the Quran. So make that your arbiter, even if he's to mistreat you. We will make him accountable, but that's not how you should then say, oh, because of him.
I mean, the thing is, we started talking about this the other day.
That's okay, brother.
We were.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm not asking for any justification. What I'm saying is, may Allah help you and increase you in your journey, and develop you and make you a scholar of Islam. Through you, then other people can accept Islam through you. Okay? Because we wish you for not only the best, we want you to become the light for other people to become Muslims. Because this is a need in a society like this, so that you can encourage others to see the misconceptions people have about Islam, and then not only that will benefit you.
Like your dead head.
Are the joints in Afghanistan? Are they?
We're talking about different things. We can have a discussion afterwards, yeah? Inshallah, maybe.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like some misperceptions you had. They were wrong, weren't they? I mean, like,
So, do you want to, just go home now, just whatever the home is, or home, or whatever, have a shower, and thank Allah, thank God. Grateful to God that He has guided you.
And by the way, why I told you just wait a minute, because what happens, some brothers mistakenly, what they do, when someone wanted to take the step of Islam, they would come, they would jump, they say, oh, hold on, maybe they want to. This moment, the person will reach the level of Iman, wanted to take the Shahada. So when someone just postponed this one, sometimes Shaitan sometimes wanted to postpone it for another day. You never know. So that's why.
So be grateful and thankful that Allah has guided her, because this is what we believe as Muslims. You'll realize we cannot convince anyone, neither can the Prophet, to guide. He's not able to guide. Allah is the one to guide. We are only the conveyor of message. Conveyor of message. Even the Prophet ﷺ, our Prophet, he tried and tried to get his own uncle to become Muslim.
And
He couldn't. So the guidance is not in the hands of us or even in the Prophet. The guidance is in the hands of Allah. So we should be really grateful. We should be really grateful and thankful to Allah for this. Okay? So, may Allah, bless you. May Allah bless you and increase you. Take care, right?
Yeah, I'll send her the number.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good night,
For those of
you, just text me, inshallah,
about Turo part.
and then we'll be in touch, yeah?
about
Turo part.
yourself.
It's Sunnah, not Shia. Shia is
Okay.
fake.
Bye, thank you.
but brother, it's okay. You're a Sunni brother, yeah?
Sunni, yeah.
Yes.
Shia, it's not Turo Islam. No.
So just some general comments to our audience, brother, to explain.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. There are a few things that I wanted to point out. that in Dawah, I will advise firstly, if someone is interested in Islam, let them come and meet us here. We can do this. But at the same time, just give us some space. Because sometimes it is, it's sometimes because when a person reaches the moment that they want to take the Shahada, some Muslims, they will say, oh, hold on a second, maybe this, maybe that. We don't force.
We see that quite often. We see that quite often.
We shouldn't force as Muslims. We are not allowed to force anyone to become Muslim. But at the same time as well, when someone having that moment, we should allow it to happen. Yeah? So we shouldn't interfere. Because, alhamdulillah, we have experience to do this. The second thing as well, alhamdulillah, that make Islam make sense to many people all around the world, alhamdulillah. Whenever we see a new Muslim, Allah, I feel, alhamdulillah, that Allah put us in the right time, in the right place. We never know. Allah used us. Allah used us, alhamdulillah. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that Allah to keep using us for His cause, to convey the message of Allah Azza wa Jalla to the people. And at the same time, we, even if someone took Shahada with us, we didn't do the biggest effort. The biggest effort is through the other Muslims who are around them, who educate them, the other people who wrote books and leaflets giving to them. All of these things is a compiled effort. It's not just only an individual effort. So when someone accepts Islam, took Shahada with me, it's not me. It's the whole Muslims who participate in this. They have done the effort in order to bring people to Islam, and that's a key thing.
That's fine. So I just want to remind our audience, you can see the effects. The effects of efforts. We should always try and put our efforts in conveying the message, because if we didn't do that, how do you expect people to remove their misconception about Islam and to see the light of Islam? So always, brothers and sisters, in whatever capacity, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. And even if you have one ayah, you convey to the people, even if it's just one ayah. So you try to learn about Islam, understand Islam, make yourself better representative of Islam, practice Islam, practice Islam, so that people, through your actions and your etiquette and your attitudes and your manners and your behaviors, they will be more interested in Islam, and they'll say, I want to be like you. How is it that you are so nice and kind and truthful, not deceiving, not mocking, and so on? So your action should be an important part of your Dawah activities to the people, but increase your knowledge in Islam. Learn and sit down with scholars and alims, so that you can learn the manners and the ways and approaches of giving da'wah, and inshallah Allah will make you a great da'iyah, so that through you, the next generations that we are trying to empower, through you and your families and your friends and your offspring, inshallah da'wah will continue stronger and stronger. Our lives may be limited. Do we know when we're going to die? We don't. But we want to continue the legacy. Through you, inshallah, continue. And help the people who haven't seen the light. Try your best to learn and to impart this knowledge to people, so people can at least accept Islam and not go into hellfire. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاك الله خير.
الله يا أخي أحبك في الله. جزاك الله خير. جزاك الله خير. I love you for the sake of Allah Azza. May Allah Azza unite us in the day of judgment with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of us, and all our brothers and sisters. جزاك الله خير. May Allah reward. جزاكم الله خير.